I mean, Ireland has like a culture, there's a culture of music that's a very sort of, what I love about it is that it's local, you know? It's kind of like music is not meant to be, you know, a universal thing that kind of like, you know, you bring around the world. It's just like, it's something you get to share with your like, immediate surroundings, you know? And I think that's what makes for, you know, incredible artists in Ireland, that there's a sense of it being, you know, profound in a very small space. You know, I think what makes people ultimately like really sort of relevant in music is just people that are kind of like, it's not about playing or technique or anything, it's about like expression, you know? And obviously he's like one of the most expressive sort of guitar players ever. This was like the guitar that I had when we started Fontaines. I had this, at the time I had like, actually the only electric guitar I owned was, I got to a Les Paul, like it was an Epiphone Les Paul. Sort of like I probably got, after that guitar I kind of got into like Les Pauls for a bit. And then, but I kind of just like, I don't know, I got a bit bored of like how big it was and stuff. And I sold that and bought one of these, but the Dan Electro version, which is like kind of like the opposite, you know, as far as you can go. But I loved it because I liked that it had so much character, you know, and I think that was like in Dublin at the time. I feel like, you know, everyone kind of, you know, in small sort of local scenes, whatever, like everyone sounds the same, you know, everyone has the same kind of guitars, same kind of pedals, you know, there's like a standard of what's good. And I found these guitars to be like so cheap for one, you know, and then they just had a totally unique sound, you know, and so I had one of these like this shape, you know, with the sort of one cutaway. And Curly in the band had actually the guitar, he was playing the Dan Electro as well. He was playing the other one, the one with the two cutaways that I think Rory played as well at some point. And that was the band, like it was just those two Dan Electros, which was quite a unique sound. And there was no pedals or anything, you know, it was kind of like, I think we were like, I mean, we were pretty broke, so we had cheap guitars, no pedals. I think we had one tuner between the three people with strings on stage. So we used to like do this like and like pass the thing around like on the middle of a gig, and then we'd be like, everyone would tune after songs, you know, we'd just pass it around and then kind of go back and keep playing. And we kept going like that for a long time. I mean, when we got signed, that was like, you know, all we had, and we got signed for not that much money, like, so we had enough money to sort of like just play for a year, but not money to buy gear or anything, you know. But by the time we got into the studio, it was like they were the only guitars that went into the studio. Diego, the bass player, had a Fender bass, jazz bass. It turns out it was fake. He was so proud of his jazz bass that he bought for like no money, and turns out it was like not even Fender. It sounds amazing though. He still plays it. But I just like love this guitar. Was just like, you know, all of the first album, everything was like written with one of these kind of guitars, and we were like really into just like rock and roll, and we were into the, you know, Velvet Underground. Like one of my favorite guitar players is Sterling Morrison from the Velvet Underground, you know, and all that kind of like super jangly kind of stuff, you know. And like with a guitar like this, you could just, everything sounded like that, you know. Man, you could just play like all these chords, and you know, when other bands were doing all this sort of like complex kind of stuff, you know, trying to get all these like, that were just, it was kind of hard to digest. You could just play all these like, you know, and have a bit of character, you know, it sounds like, and that's kind of how the band sort of started, you know, it was just like all these sort of very rock and roll songs, you know, 145, but the guitars sounded sort of cool, you know, and I don't think anyone else in Dublin at the time sounded like that, you know. And we toured those guitars to death, you know, like we didn't have like, literally just didn't have any money to like get new ones or anything. I had mine because these like have the, you know, the pickups are like connected like that. On mine, both of them were like that. and the screws would like wear out real quick. So mine would like actually ended up being that the pickups were just like falling out like and hitting against the strings at gigs. So they ended up just taped down like that, top and bottom. I still like that. It's at home, and it's like, you know, I never fixed it. You know, it was kind of like that was just the way it was. But it's the guitar that kind of got me into Mustangs then, which is kind of like my other main guitar, because I felt like the Mustang could do this, but actually, you know, it could. It was a bit more sort of resilient, I guess, you know. But these guitars I love, and even just like the fact that you can like, you know, you could like just they have a great sound even like with no, you know, not plugged in, you know, and like, you know, all of that kind of sound is kind of like almost acoustic, but it's not, you know. That's all that kind of like all that early album stuff, you know, like it's like the first album, like Sha 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 was like. You know, and lots of those things were written like without amps or anything, so you could do that with this, you know, even like Boys in the Betterland, you know, like you get all of that comes through because of the body of the guitar, you know.
So this is quite a different animal altogether, isn't it? It's a lot hotter straight away. This is Rory's 63 Epiphone Coronet.
Yeah.
In a custom colour finish, and you don't see many of those really come up.
No, you don't.
You know.
That's the end. I picked her up because, you know, the only other person that comes to mind is Alex Derner.
Yeah.
He had one of these, probably like maybe similar year. I don't know. But he gave us a loan of his for the last album when we recorded the last Fontaines album, and it ended up being sort of the guitar we used. Both me and Curly kind of like used it for the heavier sounds. You know, whenever there was like real chuggy sort of sounds, this was the sort of like the best for that. You know.
How did you feel making that switch? Because you play Fenders quite a lot. And,
yeah.
And you know, you're saying about the Silvertone, it's got quite weak pickups, so really nice.
Yeah, totally.
This is like really like gutsy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I fell in love with it. You know, it was kind of like when we wrote the songs and stuff. We had, you know, we didn't have a guitar like this, so you're kind of playing it, like trying to make that super chuggy sound, and it's like it's not coming through all the way you want it to, you know, and like, but then, yeah, kind of like he just like James Ford when he came to the studio, he brought Al's guitar down. He was kind of like, oh, I'll get them to like play this on the record or whatever, and it just did it, you know, and it was kind of like, I mean, it's like you drive that enough, like it just sounds so like with no much treble, you know. It's like, just like real punk rock, you know. It's just like proper like Stooges, and you know, and I mean, I love it. I wish I had one of these. But it definitely, what I did after we recorded that album is that then, because I was kind of like, right, these like the little sort of, you know, those weaker pickups just weren't really cutting it for everything we needed, you know. So I actually changed a couple of my guitars. I put some hot rails on them, you know. So I have like I have the sort of signature of that, which I didn't touch. But then I have like another sort of 61 reissue. I can't remember. Came out 2 years ago, maybe. What's it, like the Vintage Pro or something like that?
Oh yeah, Vintera maybe. Or something.
No, it's like an American made. They did a few, like they did a Jazz Master as well, and they're all kind of like based on like their proper like vintage spec and stuff.
Yeah, American vintage.
Yeah, and so I have another like 61 Strat like that, you know, American vintage, and in that one I put a hot rail on the bridge, and then one of my Mustangs as well that I have, I put a hot rail on the bridge as well, which is kind of what I use now for those kind of sounds, you know.
You look through Rory's collection, there's quite a few guitars that are single pickup, quite hot pickups generally. There's the Melody Maker, I think he had one he adapted with a humbucker at the bridge. This one, I don't know if he used it for slide, but often I think when he was using single pickup guitars with hot pickups, they ended up being slide guitars.
That makes sense, yeah.
How does that feel set up? Does it feel like it's set up for slide or just pretty normal?
Quite low actually, this one.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't think so. Like that's super like low. What else? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, it's not crazy high or anything,
No.
is it? Do you find, when you look at guitars with one pickup, a lot of people would say, you know, once you get used to having that, you can find a whole world of sounds within it because you're kind of forced to work with the guitar a bit more. Do you find that personally with these kind of guitars?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, and I've always liked sort of limitations. You know, I think that's, you know, I learned that from not being able to have like much. You know, in the first album when it was just that guitar that was falling apart and like one tuner between the whole band, you could still make an album. You know, and play gigs. I've kind of fell in love with that, and then like, you know, the sound has changed loads, and I play with loads of pedals now, but I kind of had this rule for myself that I would only add one type of effect per album, so I wouldn't overwhelm like my creativity, you know. So like I kind of like on the second album, what was it that I added? I mean, there was like, you know, overdrive and stuff by the time we got into the studio, because before, you know, we needed it. And then on the second album, I probably like, I think it was tremolo actually. Yeah, I added a tremolo, which kind of like, you know, in a very sort of normal kind of use, you know, just very classic. It was that one, like the TR2, because I think I got after the first album, I got a deluxe as well, like a Fender Deluxe, and that had the tremolo on, deluxe reverb. So I kind of got a pedal that could do that, and then sort of explored that for a while, you know. And then by the time we got to the third album, I think I added a flange, and then kept pushing the tremolo, you know, because you still have that. You kind of feel like you've done that all, but there's so much more you can do with it, you know. And I think to me, limitations, I think, is the most important thing for creativity, you know. It's like, and now it's got so much, but I also like have so much time, so I can, like, you know, sort of get one new thing and get lost in it for months and then master that and then sort of do another one, you know.
Yeah. And the nice thing about this guitar is this is sort of roughly contemporary with SG Juniors. I think 63 would be about right. You know, Les Paul Juniors do a similar thing.
I love those actually.
Yeah.
Les Paul Juniors.
But there's something cool about this because it's an Epiphone and it's a Coronet, and you don't see them so much. It's got a vibe of its own, hasn't it?
You never see these, no. And also, I mean, this colour is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the Epiphone Coronet. I think it's time for another guitar.
Okay. It's incredible. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what. It's played, you know, I think as well, and it's just like, it just has, you know, it carries the whole. You hear the whole, you know, it doesn't choke any bit of like frequency. Do you know what I mean? Like, but like, I really like playing chords that, like, you know, have those sort of like a whole sweep, you know, and like, you can hear the highs and the lows so much, you know. Real balanced, you know, and it's like, but I mean, kind of like, in a way, it's a bit whatever about the sound. You know what I mean? Like, sounds amazing, but it's just like crazy.
It's funny. It's like looking at a map, isn't it? Looking at the little islands
so
of finish
true.
that left on it, and really that map sort of tells the story of thousands of gigs. It tells the story of Rory's life, really, because he got that guitar in Cork. His mother helped him buy it. Which is pretty extraordinary, given how expensive those guitars would have been. I think it had previously been used by a guitarist in a show band, so it wasn't new to Rory. It was new to Rory, but it wasn't brand new.
Yeah.
But even still, back then, this would be like a spaceship, seeing this in a music shop window.
Yeah, like an American Fender.
Yeah. And now, if you look at it, the neck's been off it. I think the one of the controls has been kind of, almost like wired inoperable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's seen a whole lifetime. I mean, how does it feel to hold that guitar and play it?
I mean, it feels a bit intimidating, to be honest. Like, it's like, it's so personal, no? It's like, it's someone's. It's like I don't know. It's like looking at a, I don't know, an old couple, and been through everything, and beaten, and sort of like aged, but still sort of so much care, and so much, it shows how fragile important things are, but also how you don't have to like be too cautious with things that are fragile,
And so much soul as well, isn't it? It's, you can get carried away, projecting things onto instruments, but this is one in particular where you feel like all that whole weight of history, all those gigs, seems to be still within that guitar. It's so vibrant. It speaks really clearly. It's a really exciting instrument to play.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I mean, yeah, it feels a bit. So I say it feels a bit wrong in a way to play it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't think anyone that has a guitar that they love would want the guitar to never be played after they're dead. Do you know what I mean? Like, kind of like for it to see continue on life. It's like, it's the point of these things, I think, and it just, it's like someone made this, it's like with so much care and so long ago, and still doing the same thing that it was meant to.
One of the things I'm struck by when you look at the guitar up close, that quality that wood has is when it's been driftwood and you find it on the beach because it's been like abraded by so many things. And it's like that because if you think...
It has that, like really, like you can really see it in that part there, like these kind of like little grooves, but they're so like, so smooth. It's like the, marble steps when you go to Rome or whatever, do you know what I mean?
And I think that's it's an interesting point to raise. I mean, I think have you got a replica of this, one of the ones that Fender custom shop did?
Yeah, I do. And that was kind of like, I'd been playing Mustangs for ages. I had like a Jazz Master, like a Jaguar, all sort of like offset, sort of like more than anything, some of the Silvertone, the Dan Electro and stuff. And I just saw this, the replica of this in Chicago Music Exchange when we were on tour. And I was just like, I just asked, can I play it? It was like, I haven't seen one of these. And I just plugged it in, I played it, and it was just so... It's had even the replicas, they did a real good job with those replicas, But it's so much, it's kind of, I felt a bit weird about the guitar. I played it, and then it kind of like, the sound was amazing, I just like fell in love with it. It was like, and it's kind of aged as well, like the neck is like sort of aged, which like always, my Mustangs are 60s Mustangs as well, so like they have that age. I'm used to that kind of like exposed wood, so I kind of like that. But it sounded so good, and I felt a bit weird about like the idea of playing like a signature guitar on stage and stuff, especially with the kind of like sort of like the relict sort of finish and stuff. But it just sounded so good. I had to buy it. Like I got it, and then it sort of became my main guitar. It's kind of like it really is between that and my red Mustang, this little 60s red Mustang that I have. It's like really short scale. It was like a student guitar, which I bought sort of by mistake in that size. Didn't know it was going to be that small. But again, it was like very unique instrument, and it's kind of like, it's seen a life as well, and I kind of like fell in love with it. And then I picked that one up, which looks like it's seen a life, but it hadn't, But I don't know, it's like, it's an amazing. The replicas are amazing guitars, and I feel like they're probably that good because they're made with so much care because of the sort of respect towards the source, you know. So to like play the source is pretty. I don't know, it's pretty. It's only like sort of respect, you know, and I find it's inspiring. I'm in awe, you know. It's kind of like, I feel like since the band started doing things, I've just wanted to like continue to be a fan, you know, and to be sort of always be close to things if I got the opportunity that I could like, you know, be inspired by, and never just feel like, no, whatever, you know, brush things off. And I've sort of made a real point of that in my life, you know. And so like, to end up here now with this is kind of weird, you know. This is like, you know, I feel the same. All I feel is just sort of like, you know, humbled and in awe, you know. It's kind of like, this is someone, you know, this thing, what it, you know, means so much to the world of music and stuff, but what it must have meant to him personally is like unimaginable, you know. And it's that specific feeling, you know, towards a thing or a person or anything that is like, I think, you know, what really just keeps us going, you know. And that's the kind of things I want to be close to, you know. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's another special one, isn't it? So this is Rory's 1968 D35. That's Martin Dreadnought. This is a guitar he used for songs like out on the Western Plain live a lot, and it's a real. I mean, D35s have this reputation anyway, but it's a real canon, isn't it? It's like it's got so much kind of like
projects so much, doesn't it?
But it's got sweetness as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, totally. Such nice, like high end. It's just balanced guitar. You know? Yeah. I mean, I feel like acoustics as well. They're kind of like that, you know. They're like a real sort of companion, aren't they? Like a good, nice acoustic.
Yeah. What role do acoustics play in your musical world?
For me, I mean, it's kind of like, I feel like song, you know, usually I'd write songs and an acoustic guitar, you know, not necessarily like the guitar parts or anything, but it does give me like the chance to like, I feel like, even like whenever I write like any riff I write or whatever that's melodic, like comes from just playing, you know, I'll just be playing chords and I can sing the melody over it, that then I'll play on an electric guitar later. You know, I kind of like, I don't usually sit with the electric and write like melodies like that. It's kind of usually like I sing them. And so I've got acoustic that you can just sit with and just like, you know, create a whole world for yourself. Yeah. Onto which you can project, you know, much more.
Like one thing I'm struck by, which I hadn't thought of before, is like this guitar really opens up. It sounds great when you're finger picking, but it really opens up when you like hit the chords a bit harder. And it's actually got great intonation, so the chords kind of and I was just struck by how nice a fit this is for someone who plays heavy on electric, because
it really is actually, so true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because it holds, you know. Yeah. It doesn't like, the strings are not like wobbling or anything. Like the chords are like totally clear. Yeah, it's so true.
Just now you were playing some sort of heavier sort of strumming parts. Do you mind playing a little bit of that again, just to hear that?
Power, isn't it? Like,
doesn't break up either, does it?
And then just all the like finger picking is so beautiful.
They're interesting guitars, D35s, because I believe Martin introduced the three-piece rosewood back because that was just when timber resources were just starting to get scarce, so they had to kind of use smaller planks, or they wanted to use...
really?
Yeah, I think that's where it came from. But it's actually aesthetically a really beautiful thing, that V shape. I don't know if you can show that. It's like that insert there.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? That's the reason.
Yeah. But they have a reputation for having loads of authority in the sort of low end, and I really feel that listening to you play that.
Yeah. Really it's just like a little portable piano, isn't it? In a way, it's just like you get everything that you need, but you just carry it in your hand.
One of the things I really like about it, which is one of the things I really like about Rory, is like we get used to. If you think about Hendrix, Hendrix played acoustic. He wrote a lot on an Epiphone, but we think of him primarily on electric guitars. But Rory was right across the board. He could, captivate a crowd with a resonator like his National. He could captivate a crowd with that, or he could just literally sort of slam out riffs on the Strat.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's a real mark of what a deep musician he was. That he was
totally,
so versatile.
Yeah. But I think that's also like the thing. I feel like acoustics are just something you can. I feel like I see an electric guitar as like you have to accompany music. You don't. It doesn't really do the job. On its own. I've never been sort of that interested in hearing an electric guitar without a band behind it. But an acoustic guitar doesn't need that. It's kind of like that's the main difference. It kind of, I guess, so. I think it's a sign of someone who spends time on their own with music, someone that's so familiar with an acoustic guitar, I think, it's like Elliott Smith, I think he's one of the most one of the best guitar players that there ever was, all his guitar parts are insanely complex, like all the harmony and the chords is just so clever and profound and deep, and rich and that's, that's because the guy was just literally it was him and music, that was that was the love he had for it, and I think all of his other sort of band stuff and whatever is I also think is amazing because you can hear him through that, but I feel like I think that's kind of at the end of the day that's the best guitar players I think are the ones that can also pick up an acoustic guitar and just play that, and as you say, captivate an audience just with that, and that's also again quite rare, and I think, and it goes back to sort of Irish sort of musical tradition, it's kind of there's always an acoustic guitar lying about, and most time, I feel like in most places, if you're at a party or whatever and someone brings an acoustic guitar, you're terrified, but you wouldn't be terrified in Ireland if someone brings an acoustic guitar, it's actually just going to make it better, it's going to make the night better, and it has to do with that sort of community and that sharing, and I think it's, you can obviously see it in his playing and his music, and it's an amazing, beautiful guitar.